Hello, welcome to Loremaster's Lair. I'm your Loremaster, here today at the precipice of entering the treasure vault. So who better to have for this month's God video than the owner of one of the largest treasure vaults in the multiverse, Abadar, the master of the first vault, a deity since the days of Aslan, and the god of cities, law, merchants, and wealth. But first, where can you find the bits and pieces of lovely treasure called knowledge? As usual, the most common trinkets can be found in the book Gods and Magic, one for both editions. The most detailed information can be found in the second book of the Curse of the Crimson Throne Adventure Path, titled 7 Days to the Grave. This information was doubled in the Gods of the Inner Sea book. Some rarer treasure can be found in the books Gifts of Balance and the Dragon Empire Gazette, and the lovely tales laid out in Plain Adventures. And as for those rare gems, well, we have collected from Weapons Master Handbook, Divine Anthology, and even the Travel Guide. When the first people began creating works of civilization on Earth, a young god Abadar desired a place where everything created or experienced by civilization could be kept. More than that, he desired a perfect form of each. The large cave with its golden vault door, Abadar holding the only key. The first vault is continuously filled as civilizations explore and grow, ensuring that if civilization were to ever end, it would be able to start anew again. Abadar is usually seen as a man with black hair dressed in golden armor, but at least in some form of formal fine clothes. He also has many golden keys at his waist. Most, except elves, depict him with a beard, because they're not really big on beards themselves. But he is also a Tian deity, where he is also clean-shaven, dressed in golden robes with mud along the lower edges, and both, whether Inner Sea or Tian, usually carry around a golden crossbow. Speaking of Tian, I believe this is the perfect time for our first side tangent, the part of the show where we talk about the real world. Anyway, Abadar in Tian is connected to early innovations, many of which are connected to real-life China. So let's go through some of them now. The first emperor of China is connected with two great feats of engineering, the Great Wall and the Great Canal, both of which Abadar's incarnation takes his title from. But another set of innovations, which GMs might be interested in adding to their games, are the four great inventions. Well, this is a concept made by Western philosophers to lay out what Asia has done for the West in their eyes. These are important innovations which were then spread across the globe. They are papermaking from around the year 200 BC, the compass from around the Warring States era, about 400 BC, the printing press from 600 AD, and gunpowder, a much more recent invention at around 900 AD. At the very least, all at the medieval Renaissance era sweet spot that most people set fantasy adventures in. So Abadar places emphasis on hard work, believing people need to earn their rewards instead of just having anything handed to them. Nothing is free. Not even potions at his temple. Those are sold. He also instructs his followers to make decisions which benefit others instead of just themselves. But he acknowledges that not every decision can help another person. He is against base and destructive instincts, from mindlessly breaking things to drinking and gambling. A majority of the followers of Abadar are in positions which connect them to justice or connect them to money. Judges and lawyers who work to keep the peace and lawfulness of a region ask for Abadar to guide them. Merchants work to keep the commerce of a city alive, and work to ensure all transactions are fair. Nobles, of course, love him, but it is more of a reinforcement of their own special existence than anything else. As for the not quite rich people, those who have been abused or mistreated pray to the keeper of the first vault for the wrongs against them to be righted. The church in each city is considered to be independent, so the clergy is allowed to some friendly competition between themselves, not that unlike what we find in commerce, because, you know. That said, clergy is not allowed to attack one another, so they remain neutral in times of war or in times of political issues. The role of the priest is to always spread civilization and commerce, and allowing people to live comfortable lives. Some more than others, but Abadar at least does not seem to intend that. In large cities, the clerics serve as bankers and lawmakers, and in rural areas, they are often the only judge and jury in a small town. One thing traveling priests are known for is to carry a single crossbow bolt with a golden tip. When confronted with someone who requires a lawful execution, this bolt is used to kill them. Then is sent to their dead family, to the dead's family, their family is not dead, to repay them for the death. Which brings us to our second side tangent, and what is one of the earliest prestige classes in Pathfinder, the Juster Cause. These are people who are usually followers of Abadar, but can be followers of any lawful deity, who fight against corruption, whether in the slums or in the frontier. They are diplomats to the good, and the law to the wicked. They mark roads with their footsteps and draft laws with their words. In practice, they are shown to have perfect recall of the law, and have divine authority to bind contracts. Temples of Abadar are the most expensive-looking buildings you will ever see, complete with stained glass windows, mostly yellow so that the insides feel golden. Because of course. Each temple also tends to have a guarded vault, to keep both the treasures of the church as well as to rent out space to the faithful. In most towns, this building also typically functions as a bank or moneylender. They also are in charge of setting local interest rates to best benefit the surrounding area. Usually. As one would expect, Abadar's capital is in the city of Axis, the district of Octon. Heck, with his long association with the city, and his hands in every pot when it comes to its ruling, he is the closest Axis has to a single ruler. The city is open to mortal architects who can come in and use the place's various architectures for their inspiration. And of course, in Octon, here Abadar's own territory is the location of his first vault. For the miscellaneous facts, where is the keeper of the first vault's strength the strongest? First in Talon and its former territories of Cheliax, Andoran, and Morthune, as well as Chelish colonies like you would find in Vorisian. Major trade areas like Absalom or Katapesh, as well as nearby Next, Osirian, and the Manor Wastes, also all along his routes. There's also the surprise of Brevoy. I'm not sure how to explain that one. And in Tianxi, the city of Goka has the largest temple to him in the world. Amandaran also counts as a Talon colony. And the four largest nations when it comes to civilization, we have Hangul, Lingshen, Socorro, and Nizarhoi, all which pay the god of walls and ditches some respect. For holy days, we have Market Store, when the first harvest hits the markets, and Tax Fest, where taxes are celebrated, because of course. and the man has 2 holy books, the Order of Numbers and the Manual of City Building. One can easily expect it to be a city charter the way it reads, but the book, the Order of Numbers, is laid out to the believers and taboos of the faith, as well as leaving spaces for local laws and the leaders of the city. The thing comes with an index. The Manual of City Building is a complete list on everything one needs and should consider when building a city, updated every few years. And yes, this book is supposed to be heavy. Which brings us to our third side tangent of the day, a few other extended tidbits on the faith. I would like to say in-universe books, but neither of these are connected to such, so Random Divine, Fighting Style, and Apocrypha. Regardless, starting with Abadar's crossbow, is a ranged combat maneuver, steel of all things, which allows you to dexterously knock things out of people's hands with a bolt. And with enough practice, you can pin people's clothes to the ground to stop them from escaping. And for the Apocrypha, there's a group of followers of Abadar called the Apostles of Axis, who believe that the best thing one can do for the cities of the world is to connect them all together, and open portals where they can be connected to one another in a chain. As you would expect, many cities who take time to build walls do not want some people to easily slip in and out of their city, and do what they can to sniff out these portals whenever they're set up. The deity of law and order tries to keep positive relationships with his fellow divinities. Many lawful gods and good deities are in a positive relationship with him. Goswin often fights against him, as you would expect, but the only deities Abadar truly counts as enemies are Besmara, Lamashtu, Norgabur, and Rovagug. As for planar allies, first we have the ghost of Malthus, a priest of Abadar who encouraged people to go out and start new cities, instead of being cramped together in one area. He is seen as a sort of Grim Reaper-like figure, since his main focus is warning others about plagues. Cobblefoot is a hippogriff, battle-trained, and wearing mithril armor. Warning, he is not a fan of youngsters treating him like a mere beast. And finally, Abadar's herald, the Lawbringer. Once a priest named Zorin, he gave his life and soul to Abadar for the power to protect his city from raiders. He now stands as a powerful construct of gold, wielding a hammer known as the Gavel of Abadar. And ending off with one last side tangent, we have an interesting bit of information straight from the travel guide, the Society of Scales. While it's not directly connected to Abadar, the Society seems to be a new organization in the world, an international organization devoted to hunting down criminals in ways where borders do not matter. While it's still a small organization, they are backed by half a dozen inner-sea nations, which ones we do not at this moment know, and are made up of some of the plenty of detectives with sterling reputations. They have enough respect to leverage help just about anywhere in the inner sea. And, again, while not directly connected to Abadar, they are sure doing his work. Well, the justice part. And that brings us to the end of this week, but not the end of the Treasure Vault inspired content. We visited three markets, talked of 2 faiths. But we would be remiss if we did not have a monthly market to round everything out, would we not? So you can look forward to that next week.